Alright, what is up, my friends? Welcome. Part 2 of our Ikoria Lair of Behemoths complete set review. Blue. That's right, blue. We just did white, and we've been lamenting how white has been the worst color magic for a while now. That's okay. We get to blue. The best color magic. Always. And ever. And I just want to remind you all that this set review is brought to you by coasapparel.shop. I'm wearing my shirt. It finally came. Check out my shirt and other great shirts. So soft and comfy. coasapparel.shop. Promo code GYM10. Check it out, coasapparel.shop. Thanks to them for sponsoring me. And, of course, the early access stream, for those of you who don't know or don't remember or whatever, is next Wednesday. This coming Wednesday, the 15th. I'll be on all day playing my 10 new brews. And, of course, I'll have all the YouTube videos up from that. And my article on Friday will be all the brews as well. So, my favorite piece of content that I do. It's going to be awesome. Check it out this Wednesday, the early access streamer event. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm okay. 10 new Ikoria brews. Let's look at blue and see what we got. It's Turtle. Aigis Turtle. 1 blue for an 05. Alright, I mean, it's funny because Kraken Hatchling has seen a non-zero amount of constructed play. I believe Max Teats, good friend of mine, played 2 copies in his blue-white control deck a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So, Aigis Turtle is strictly better than Kraken Hatchling, which was an 04 for 1 blue. So, when it comes to 1-mana cards, it's hard to call any 1-mana card completely unplayable. So, could this see play constructed? It's not impossible, but in limited, this seems like a pretty good thing to mutate onto. Hard to kill in response. If you really need a blocker, certainly worse than the Flash Turtle, I guess, probably in the last set. But there it is, Aigis Turtle. Behold the raw power of blue, and no defender is important because obviously you can mutate onto it, and they can be a good vessel for that too. So there's Aigis Turtle, the raw power of blue. Anticipate is back. I'm a long time naysayer of this card. I think this card is not worth 2 mana at all. People love this card. They put it in their deck all the time. I think Omen of the Sea is better than this card by an unbelievably wide margin. Just not a great card. There aren't, unless we're looking for specific combo pieces or reducing the cost of it or something, this card is not playable constructed in my opinion. Omen of the Sea is everything this card wants to be and better, and has synergies too. You can bounce it with Teferi, it's a permanent, it gives devotion, and so on and so forth. True Constellation. Don't put this card in your constructed deck unless you have a really good reason to. And then limited, it's fine. If you're looking for a bomb, whatever. Not a card I'm really excited about, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not even going to try and say this one. Just not even going to bother. 7 mana for a 7/7 Leviathan. It mutates for 6. And has no abilities once you mutate. But if you do mutate, it says, whenever this creature mutates, tap up to X target creatures, where X is the number of times this creature is mutated. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. So again, we discussed mutate in the previous video. I'm not going to go into it too much. If you want my full explanation on mutate, it's in the white section. And if you're watching on Twitch right now live, I mean, if you're a sub, you can rerun the VOD. Otherwise, wait for the videos. But mutating is a cost for sure. So we can mutate this onto a smaller creature, which is kind of cool. But we're also opening ourselves up to a 2-for-1. Tapping a thing is cool. But again, going all in and mutating onto this over and over and over again can tap more things, which is cool. But again, it's all your eggs in one basket scenario. So I don't love the all of our eggs in one basket scenario. There are a number of good kill spells in this format. This card's certainly fine and limited if you're looking for a big way to win the game. But I don't love it. It's definitely a nice finisher. If you have a card that's already mutated, pop this onto it, tap 2 things, attack for 7. Kind of a high risk, high reward card. It definitely can win the game on the spot, but it's also kind of risky too. So definitely a powerful limited card. Not without risk though, and then obviously constructed, you don't want to be playing a 7 mana Leviathan. So Aven Oddity. This card's very solid. Part of a cycle of cards where when you cycle them, you get to put an ability counter on something, which is very good. And a 2/4 flyer for 4 is also pretty reasonable. So just very solid limited card. Unplayable, constructed, cool art, but definitely reasonable, limited, uncommon. Nothing incredible, but definitely a very solid card. Boon of the Wishgiver. 6 mana, sorcery, draw 4 cards, cycling 1. So cycling 1 is pretty big game. We've seen cycling 2 a lot in the past. We've seen cycling for 1 of a color. But cycling for 1 generic is a new thing in this set. It's in a lot of cards, and it's significantly better than any other cycling we've ever had before. Some mad power creep here. And Boon of the Wishgiver is pretty interesting. If this card was an instant, it'd be busted. Opportunities close to playable, giving it cycling, wow. But this card is definitely somewhat akin to Tidings, which was a 5 mana sorcery speed, draw 4. That saw a decent amount of play in standard when it was legal. Adding a mana to cycle it early is definitely reasonable. This is sort of like a super hieroglyphic illumination, where you're going to cycle it a lot. When you do cast it, it'd be pretty good. This card could definitely see constructed play. Not sure what deck exactly wants it, because typically you want to be affecting the board in standard, but definitely inside the realm of possibility. And then unlimited, this card seems great, especially in sealed. This card's a hammer in sealed. Pretty cool card. Capture Spheres. As I was saying about putting all your eggs in one basket, almost every color has a solid removal spell like common. White's got Pacifism. White has the Exile, a big creature. Blue has Capture Sphere. So I mutate onto my big 7/7 and Capture Sphere. Get 2 for 1. So definitely, part of the risk of mutations. I'm sure this card's probably very good limited because of that. Obviously, mostly unplayable and constructed, but solid limited removal spell. Convolute returns. In constructed, we have Whirlwind Denial. This card's worthless. In limited, it's probably as mediocre as it always was. I don't know why this card would be any better than usual. It just seems whatever. It's Convolute. Nothing's really changed, it's just so Convolute. Crustacean. A 1/6 flash for 4. Now, this card there are a few things in the set that make this card a lot more than the sum of its parts. This card's obviously not a constructed playable, but in limited, there are cards in white that care about large toughness. There are cards in blue that care about flash creatures. And then, of course, it's a decent vessel for mutations. Although, again, if you mutate like a 5/5 onto this, you're mutating onto your 4-drop. And again, asking to get 2 for 1. So be aware of that. But this card is not as bad as it looks because of how it interacts with the format. The flavor text is, it loves blending into its environment, ambushing prey, and long scuttles on the beach. That's great. Yeah, so definitely it looks better than it is in limited, but very dependent on having synergies in your deck. Dreamtail Heron. 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. Mutates for 4. And whenever mutates, draw cards. This card's kind of nice. So this card's pretty sweet in that when you mutate, you draw a card. So again, the 2 for 1 possibilities aren't that bad because you already got your card back, which is great. So like this card a lot. It's essentially a 4 mana hasted 3/4 flyer that draws a card. Sacrifice a creature when it comes into play. So you stack your 05 turtle, put this thing into play, draw cards, act for 3. That's pretty nice. This card does a good job of avoiding some of the pitfalls that mutating can have, and it's still a 3/4 flyer, which is very, very reasonable. So, and if you play this and they kill it in response, they kill your creature you're mutating onto in response, 3/4 for 4 is obviously fine. So, very, very solid limited card. Yeah, I like that one. Escape Protocol, 2 mana enchantment. Whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 1 to flicker your own artifact or creature, and it comes back immediately. So first thing you see when you see this card is you think of Astral Slide. And Astral Slide is awesome. Obviously, I built decks around Astral Drift in Modern. I'm a huge fan of Astral Slide, things like that. The big problems with this card are the activation cost is very, very real, and it only hits your stuff. So you can't use this to slide out your opponent's creatures, which is a pretty big feature of what Astral Slide can do. slowing your opponent's stuff down, things like that. So you can use this to like flicker your own things, which is kind of cool. I'm not sure what deck would want a flicker engine based on cycling. It's a pretty narrow niche subset of things there, but it does do that well. So if that deck exists, sure, but if you're looking to blink things, that makes a lot more sense in standard. Just a weird card, honestly, just a weird card. Oops, I broke stuff. Essence Scatter's back. Essence Scatter's sweet. With a lot of the power being tied up in mutate creatures in this set, Essence Scatter goes from being good to being really good. I'm a pretty big Essence Scatter fan. A lot of the best cards in the format are creatures. It's not entirely true, I guess, but a lot of the good cards are creatures. And 2-mana counter spells are phenomenal, and a diamond, not a diamond does it anymore, so it's very important to have good ones. Can't play a ton of this card in Constructed, but definitely a reasonable option and a good sideboard card. Art is really, really cool, too. Definitely really, really cool art. But definitely a nice thing to have access to in Constructed. And Limited, the card seems great. Seems really, really good. I like that one a lot. Solid. Merfolk Looter is back. It's funny, they brought back Master Decoy in white and Merfolk Looter in blue, but they upped their activation costs by 1. So looters are fine in Limited. I'm actually not a big fan of looters in Limited, which is kind of contrary to popular opinion. They're really good when you're flooding and later on in the game, but in the early game they're pretty awkward because you typically need to make your land drops and have spells. So unless you're discarding for value in some way, I'm not a huge looter fan, and the activation cost is also a pretty big deal. So this card is probably a lot better in Sealed than it is in Draft, because flooding is a real deal in Sealed, but not playable in Constructed, and then not a huge fan in Limited. Again, if you need a flood insurance, you need a mana outlet. If you're playing a long game deck, definitely a solid card, but not a card I'm like slamming to add into my pile, you know? Frostlinks returns. Just solid Limited card. If you're a beatdown deck, you know, Core Hookmaster, I think was his card initially. And attack, tap your thing, attack again. Solid aggro card. Fine Vessel for mutations, because you've already used the ability. It's a cool card. It's a cool Limited card. Unplayable, Constructed. Frostveil Ambush. So again, this falls under the category of kind of narrow effect that once it has cycling is very sweet. This is a Blinding Beam. Raise your hand in chat if you remember the card Blinding Beam. I love Blinding Beam. Tap 2 creatures, and they don't untap during the next Untap Step. So really good for an aggro deck as a finishing blow. You both build a board, you're swinging in, they stabilize, tap 2 things, swing, kill them. Definitely a very powerful effect. But, again, kind of situational. So having cycling 1 on this card is pretty awesome. 5's a lot. Usually this effect costs like 3 or 4, but adding cycling is good. You don't want a ton of this card, but I would say that you having 1 in your aggro deck is pretty solid and Limited. Glimmer Belt. Now this is a good vessel for mutating onto. 2 mana, so it's already cheap, decent toughness, has flying and a good ability. So this is your mutate vessel here for sure. This is the card you want to mutate onto. It's okay by itself. You know, 1/3 flyer for 2 is fine. It's not good, but it's okay. And then very good mutate target. And yes, it's important to note that even though it says untap Glimmer Belt, if you mutate on top of this card, so say you mutate what was that card called? Even Oddity. You mutate on top of it. The ability untap Glimmer Belt just means untap this card. So it will still work on the untap effect. Important to note that. Gust of Wind, 4 mana sorcery. Bounce it down on permanent and draw a card, and it costs 2 less. If you control a creature with flying, this card is phenomenal in Limited if you're for the flyer deck. A 2 mana repulse is insane. Bounce and draw a card. Fantastic tempo card. Don't want to pay 4 for this one, but if you're playing a flying deck in Limited, awesome card. Awesome card. Definitely all about this one. Hampering Snare, 2 mana for an instant. Creatures your opponent control get plus -2, -0, and cycling. So another one of your narrow effects with cycling. This kind of effect can be a blowout in combat, but like it's pretty hard to set up, and blue isn't as combat focused as the other colors typically. So more focused on evasion and kind of like avoiding combat if possible. So it's a mopey card. It's probably one of your last pick kind of cards. Could it blow someone out? Sure, but eh. And if some sort of fog deck pops up in standard, it probably still doesn't want this card. But keep safe. This is probably the most powerful version of this effect. Oh, it doesn't mean it's not you or a permanent you control. All right, maybe not. But 2 mana counter spell targets a permanent you control and draw a card. Costing 2 is a lot worse than 1. So we think cards like Dive Down as our protection spells. But 2 is a lot more than 1. Still a pretty good effect though. We get a 2 for 1 here. Try and kill your creature. You get to counter their thing and draw a card. So if you successfully resolve this, it's a blowout. It just the issue of actually resolving it and finding time to leave up mana for it, and your opponent plays into it, and you resolve it. But kind of a cute little trick. Probably don't want this thing constructed. It's just too expensive and clunky. It's possible. It's possible. But it's fine. Mystic Subdual. 2 mana for a flash enchantment. Creature gets -2, -0, and loses all abilities. -2, -0 is not much. We've seen cards like this that have like -6, -0. This card is not great. I don't know if this card does enough. Losing the abilities is like, it's a thing, I guess. But this card's pretty mopey. It's no Icky Fishy. And then at instant speed, does this stop mutate? It stops the mutate effect on a card. Doesn't stop ability counters though. Okay, is it layering? If the ability counters are already on it, this removes those abilities, but the counter probably still stays. I don't know how that works. And then if you give an ability counter after this is already on it, it'll keep the ability. This set's so confusing. I'm just going to skip this card. I don't know how to talk about this card anymore. Mythos of Aluna. Blue 2 for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target permanent. Okay, so essentially Clever Impersonator. If a red-green was spent to cast a spell, instead make a token that's a copy of the permanent. Except when it comes into play, it fights a creature you don't control. So definitely kind of a cool card. It's kind of weird though, because the ability sounds really cool, right? I clone their creature, which is already fine, and then I get to fight something. The problem is, say your opponent has one good creature in play. Well, I guess it's removal. You can copy it and then have it fight, and then they'll both die. But that's like not, I guess a Teamer Doomblade is like a thing. But so the red green part feels a little weird. The copy part's honestly fine. You can copy planeswalkers with this. You can copy lands. Definitely, Clever Impersonator is not the worst card ever printed for sure. So it's an interesting take on that. The fight effect it's not as good as it looks, I don't think, but it's fine. It's a thing. I'm not sure what teamer deck wants this. This card literally costs red, green, blue, blue if you want the full effect. So that's a pretty, tricky mana cost, but it's definitely an interesting card. Interesting card. Neutralize. This card's very good. Cancel is already close to playable, and giving cycling to anything is pretty good. I'm not sure if this card is better than Sinister Sabotage. A lot of people are all about this card, but Surveil is pretty powerful, and typically your hard counters are pretty important in your control deck. You kind of want to hold on to them for the really important things. So cycling this card only really relevant in like super aggro matchups where you really got to just like find that wrath or whatever. My gut tells me this card is worse than Sinister Sabotage and Absorb. I may be wrong, but this is a less conditional effect than a card like Cast Out or Miscalculation. This is a much more universal, like, just counter your spell. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what they have, just counter it. And cycling is less exciting on more universal effects. Therefore, I'm not very high on this card. It's definitely very good, and we'll definitely see play, but I'm not convinced yet it's better than Sinister Sabotage. That's what I got. Although, obviously, if you're playing some sort of cycling synergies, it becomes a lot better there, too. But Of One Mind. I love the design of this card. So this is one of your, as we discussed earlier, one of the sub-themes of a deck is humans and non-humans working together. Aww. And Of One Mind says, draw 2 cards. It's just divination. Just 3 mana, draw 2 sorcery. But if you control a human and a non-human, this only costs 1 blue. This is Thoughtcast. And Thoughtcast is awesome. That's a really, really good payoff. 1 blue to draw 2 cards is like something else. I don't know what deck wants this, because the human and it's almost like the human and non-human theme is like a non-theme, because it's like you're playing the anti-tribal deck. You're playing a mixture of things rather than all humans or all zombies or whatever. So definitely a cool card. Again, the fail state is definitely very reasonable. Totally agree. Divination as a floor. Divination's not great, but I've played Divination and constructed in multiple decks. They're control decks, but it could be worse. Could be worse for sure. So I like this card a lot. There's a lot of sneaky power here, and this is probably one of the better cards in blue, honestly. Definitely a really cool design. Definitely a really, really cool design. I like it a lot. The idea of paying you off for having a human and non-human just hits the right buttons for me. I like it. Super sweet card. Ominous Seas, 2 mana enchantment. Whenever you draw a card, put a counter on it. Remove 8 counters, get an 8/8 token. Cycling 2. This is basically a cycling payoff card. Play this card, cycle, make it 8/8. Definitely pretty cool for that. This could be a control finisher. Doesn't do much for a long time. But the fact that it has cycling is very reasonable. So it's again, it fills that role of this card's narrow at times, but you can cycle when it's bad. It's probably not fast enough for constructed. It could be. It could be good like control mirrors, things like that. There's a lot of cards like this, like Hoofprints of the Stag and things like that just aren't really great. But you can keep using it, correct? But how many 8/8s are you gonna make up with this thing? So it's an okay card. It's an okay card. Definitely like a hidden cycling synergy card. It's fine. I don't have great feelings about it being super playable, but it's a card. It's a card, yeah. It's only bad against the fairy. And you can't end step make the token, but it's the thing. One of the cool things about cycling is how it works against Teferi. So you can still cycle with Teferi in play. We'll get to that later. And then in limited, you need to have a pretty specific deck, I think, to play this card. If you do, it's probably good, but this card seems really hard to make work in limited. Phase Dolphin. 1/4 for 3. Elemental Whale. Whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn. Kind of a weird card, because again, as we said earlier, blue is not really super interested in getting into combat in limited, and a lot of blue creatures already have evasion. So this could be good in blue-white if you're not focusing on flying, or blue-green, things like that. But card doesn't really excite me. It's a reasonable target for Mutate, but it's alright. Not really super exciting. This card, I think this is one of the more underrated cards in the entire set. Polywog Symbiote. 2 mana for a 1/3. Frog. And each creature spell you cast costs 1 less to cast if it has Mutate. Now, this counts for 2 things. This means if you want to mutate onto something, it costs 1 less. That's good. This also means if you just want to hard cast a Mutate card, it costs 1 less. That's also good. So this is like a super mana creature in blue, which is not common. And then whenever you cast a spell with Mutate, you get to loot. And again, you don't have to mutate it. You can just cast it. So I think this card is secretly one of the best, I don't say best cards of a set, but one of the sneakier cards of a set that's actually very, very good. Doesn't look like much on first glance. This card could definitely see constructed play. This card plus the Mutate that draws cards, definitely really cool. We'll get to the best Mutate card in the set a little bit later. But this is in the right colors. It's cheap. It's cost reduction. It does other things too. This card's really, really good. Really, really, really good. I kind of wish I had picked this card in my love-hate article. I'm not sure if it was out yet or not, but I'm very, very, very high on this card. I think this card is awesome. In limited and constructed, this card's the real deal. Keep an eye out for this one for sure. Pouncing Shore Shark, 4/3 flash, 4/5. When you mutate it, you can bounce something. This card, as I've been saying, I have concern about mutate cards. I don't want to get 2 for 1 and so on and so forth. This card bucks that trend because by giving it flash, this card can be a huge blowout on your opponent's turn and gain its value that way. So your opponent plays a creature, smashes in with 2 creatures, right? And say we have a 2/2 and a 4/4 in play or whatever. We mutate this in onto our 2/2, make it a surprise 4/3 blocker, bounce their big creature, and block. And that's pretty awesome. Definitely a powerful limited card. You can do a lot with it. Very, very tricky card. Not playable and constructed, just too clunky, I think. I mean, we'll see. Maybe with the other card we just looked at, it's cheap enough. But, yeah, without Flash, this card's whatever. This card's not super exciting. With Flash, this card is really, really exciting. So, I think this card's awesome and limited. You're going to get blown out by this card a lot. Pretty powerful card. Reconnaissance Mission. So this is just Biden to Thassa, minus all the fancy stuff. Enchantment for 4 mana. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Standard is not really about this. Standard is about adding to the board over and over and over again. And this card adds nothing to the board. This card takes the cards you have in play and makes them better, but doesn't actually do anything beyond that, which makes it kind of an for me. Biden to Thassa is not a very good card. The fact that it has cycling makes sense. This is another one of your kind of conditional kind of cards that giving cycling makes it reasonable. But I'm not about this card, honestly, in anything. If you're behind, this card is heinous. If you're doing okay, it's not great. You need to be hitting your opponent with multiple creatures repeatedly to make this card good. And that's kind of a definition of a win more card. So for 4 mana, we got to do a lot better than this. I'm not about this card at all. Biden was played in Mono Blue Devotion a little bit. It's like a 1 of or a 2 of at times. And it was specifically good against blue-white control at the time. But I would argue it was occasionally okay in Devotion. Devotion wasn't good because of Biden. So, yes, and Biden had more abilities too. So, oh boy. Uh-oh. It's time, folks. It's time. Best of show. Sea Dasher Octopus. This is probably the best card in the set. This card is unreal good. Every mutate creature we've looked at has been pretty clunky. You got a mutated sorcery speed. Mutate costs like, 3 or 4 or 5. But Sea Dasher Octopus is everything you've ever wanted in a card. Just played straight up as a 2/2 flash for 3. That's an Ophidian. It's like not even that bad. But mutating for 2 and drawing cards, it's just insane. Like Ninja of a Deep Hours, Octopus of a Deep Hours, yeah, basically. Ninja of a Deep Hours was a really cool card. Those who don't know what Ninja was, it was basically this card, but you had to bounce the creature you're mutating instead of mutating onto it. This thing, you go turn 1 Healer's Hawk, turn to attack, mutate. Now you have a 2/2 lifelinker that draws a card every turn. And the most important thing is, our concerns with mutate are getting blown out, right? Our concerns are, oh god, I gotta mutate, they kill my creature, I lose everything. This card will always get you the card back as long as you time it right. and it's so nimble and cheap. You can just do it whenever. Do it on the end step. Do it here. Do it there. It's just super nimble, super cheap. I think this card is playable in literally every format. Yes, I mean vintage. Yes, I mean legacy. Yes, I mean modern. I think this card is that good. And it's insanely good with the 1/3 that reduces costs. It's good with flyers. You need to have actual creatures in your deck to make this card good. So you can't put it in any deck. But blue likes to draw cards. Blue likes to play things at instant speed. Blue likes to counter spells. In the older formats, you have pitch counters. This card is just unbelievably good. However good you think this card is, it's better. All right, I'm telling you right now, this is probably the best card in the set. I don't care how flashy your 3-color mythic rare is that costs 6. Efficiency and drawing cards and blue cards is what you want, basically. And this card does everything. Best in show, not close. If you're missing it, just play with it. I haven't played with it yet either, but I'm telling you, 1-drop into this is just insane. But it's so much more than that. It's instance. It's end step, mutate here, mutate there. This card is phenomenally good. Phenomenally good. Well, what was between the 10 brews? Yeah, I'm sure I'll have at least 2 decks with this card in it. This card's phenomenal. Listen, I said it here. I said it. This card will see play in every format. I don't know Vintage very well, but I mean I haven't looked at Vintage in years, but this could definitely see play in Legacy for sure. All right, cool. That's what we got. Best in set, best of show, best of everything. Sea Dasher Octopus, and Unlimited. Oh my God, this card's silly Unlimited. All right, Shark Typhoon. From a card that I'm huge on, to a card I'm not super excited about. There's a lot of hype on this card. This card's not very good, I don't think. And if you read my article on CoolStuffInc.com from a few days ago, my love-hate article, this is one of my hates. I don't think this card's very good. Hard casting it, I like the card Metallic Resurgence or whatever it was. Whenever you played a spell, you got a token. 5 is a lot. 6 is even more. You're not really casting this card very often. And then the cycling effect is not bad. Now, the one thing this card has going for it is this card is really, really good against Teferi. One of the biggest problems with Teferi Time Raveler is they play it and you can't do anything. So even if you have a flash creature, even if you have something to do end step to kill it or deal with it, you just can't do it once Teferi's in play, which makes the card so frustrating. This card can. That's the one big count this card has, is they play Teferi, they minus it or whatever, you end step, make a 2/2 flyer, and attack it. That's good. That's good. Aside from that, though, this card is just very, very inefficient at basically every point. And Standard's not really about this. Standard's about getting on the board, playing powerful cards, snowballing advantages. And this card is kind of like a nickel and dime, I'm going to end step you, make a 3/3, going to get you kind of thing. This card plays at its best in like a Drago control deck, but they're going to have a dead kill spell in their hand to kill it. This card is just very mopey. It reminds me a lot of Decree of Justice, but as I said in my Cool Stuff Inc. article, Decree of Justice's time was a decade ago. As I mentioned in my article, I took Decree of Justice out of my cube during the Obama administration. All right? Like, Decree of Justice hasn't been good for a long time. Magic cards are so much better than they were back then. And it's just not good enough. Yeah, it is cool. Fire's Invention too, where you can cycle it under fires and play 3 spells in one turn. I think that in those scenarios, it's definitely fun. I think that you need to have a reason to play it like that. So a reason like I'm playing fires and I want to be able to put something in play when fires is in play on their turn. Or I want to beat Teferi. You got to have a reason to play this card. This card is not amazing. And, that is true, Decree made 5/1/1s. This makes 1 5/5. Then they kill it with the dead kill spell they have in their hand. So this card is, it's okay. It's playable, but people are all about this card, and it's just not that good. What a Starlight Development. Starlight Development. 2-mana common. This is your typical make a creature a 4/4. Typically, this effect gives flying. This one does not, but it does have cycling. So again, conditional effect. This is an okay pump spell unlimited. It's not great. It's fine. Cycling makes it okay too. It's just fine. There it is. It's a little limited card, limited trick. Thieving Otter, not quite the Octopus. 2/2 for 3. Ophidian, definitely a cool card and limited to mutate onto. Give us thing flying, things like that. But not really great by itself. It's an okay limited card. Definitely not a constructed card. But yeah, this is the poor man's Octopus for sure. Another stinker. People love this card too. Again, my article on CoolStuffInc.com talk about this card's also super overrated. I think this card's almost unplayable. It only counters artifacts and creatures. You know what? I'm going to leave it to Cool Stuff. Go read the article. I spent 2 paragraphs explaining why this card's bad. There you go. You want to know why? Go to CoolStuffInc.com. Read my love-hate article from a few days ago. I explain why this card is bad. We'll do that. We'll do a teaser. All right? Wingfold Teradon. Wingfold Teradon. 6 mana for a 3/6, and either has a flying counter or a hexproof counter. Not great. Not great. Definitely a little cute with hexproof. You can bestow onto it and stuff like that or whatever. Mutate. CoolStuffInc.com. I do an article every Friday. Last Friday was my love-hate article where I go over my first impressions of cards from the new set. My loves and my hates. This card is just limited filler. I'm just if you need a big card to top your curve and limited, it's okay. It's not really particularly exciting. Not really about it. Yeah, they wisely costed this pretty insanely because hexproof counters are pretty miserable, so I'm pretty cool with that. Wingspan Mentors, as we were saying, is a mentor in every color. These seem like really, really good limited cards. This seems like one of the best of the bunch, honestly. A 1/3 for 3. When it comes into play, put a flying counter on a non-human, and then you can tap 3 and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on every creature you control flying. This is good even if you don't have a non-flying creature to pump, because pumping your team is great. Cards that have a scalable ceiling, that have no ceiling in limited are phenomenal. As long as you can keep scaling up and scaling up and scaling up, that's the mark of a great limited card. Because if the board gets a little gunked up or things get stalled, you're always making forward progress. This card's just phenomenal. All the mentors are great and limited. All of them. This one's great. That's it. That's it for blue. So, that's our blue set review. Again, the Octopus, best in show, not close. Blue does pretty well. Definitely some cool flash stuff. Again, as I said earlier, a lot of the power of my set's concentrated in the multicolor cards, but the Octopus, let me tell you. So, that's blue. If you're watching on YouTube, please take 10 seconds to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe. Helps me out a ton. And if you're watching on Twitch and you missed any of this, it'll all be on YouTube tonight. So, that's that. YouTube, folks. See you in the next video. Love you.